Hello and welcome to Energy Based Planning. Now, you might be thinking, what the fuck are you talking about, Linz? In this session, I want to talk through how you can plan your workload to avoid burnout and overwhelm, but working with your body and mind in mind rather than the more traditional routes of write it all down and just get your to do list done. So, firstly, why does this actually matter? Why should we look at other choices? Before I talk through what I would suggest doing, I want to cover why traditional planning doesn't always work for us. And when I say us, I definitely mean me. Firstly, time management frameworks assume that you have consistent capacity every day, which for me, and I think for a lot of you, just isn't true because we are humans, not a computer. They don't take into account like family life, hormonal shifts, mental capacity. In essence, they don't work with sustainability in mind. They're very much just get it done. The frameworks that are more traditional are often rooted in productivity culture, which really focuses on the outputs of your work, but it misses how to keep that kind of output up long term. This means on the days when you do have fluctuating energy, you achieve less and it really feels like you're not being consistent and like you failed. So it ends up being quite counterproductive. The first thing I want to talk through in terms of what we should do is what actually energy looks like in this sort of format. And I like to look at it as energy pots. So my first energy pot is physical energy. So that is things like client services, cleaning, anything that requires my body more so than my mind. The next is cognitive energy, and that's for things like pricing and admin, the working on your business stuff. Then there's emotional energy, and this is often an energy requirement that's ignored quite a lot, but it's for things like chatting with clients and holding boundaries, particularly when you're dealing with a client who's got quite a lot of emotional stress themselves. You take that on, so that depletes your energy pot, so it does require lots of energy. And then finally, it's the creative energy, which, let's be honest, does also take a lot because we are creative beings. And that's things like idea generation, set designs, content. And these pots of energy are vital to us running our business. So when you look at more traditional planning in terms of like to do lists and goals and things like that, they don't take into account how your energy will be used in the different ways. When we're looking at planning, I want you to look at these energy uses and these energy pots to help you understand why sometimes we have those days where our mind and body just doesn't want to do the do. And remember, those points I've just talked through is literally just business. I've not taken into consideration relationships, children's, pets, other jobs. So when you're thinking about planning your week, I want you to think about where are we drawing from these different pots? Is there a day that's going to be particularly heavy on my physical energy or my creativity energy? And we'll come back to what that literally looks like on a day to day a little bit later. Next, let's quickly touch on fluctuations. Now, it's clear to see where our energy goes, put my teeth in, but I want to quickly recognise the fact that our capacity does fluctuate, particularly hormonally. Our cycles have a massive impact on our energy level, and it's a massive reason for our fluctuations. We all know that throughout our cycle, our energy will up and down depending on where you're at. And there's a lot of growing research around cycle syncing, which is something again I'll touch on later. The other thing that is a massive drain on our energy is task switch fatigue. Now, this is something I've recently learned about. It's a type of mental exhaustion which reduces your focus and lowers your productivity. It happens when you jump back and forth between tasks that aren't related, which I think is something we all do as business owners. It's not the actual work that drains you, it's the energy your brain uses to repeatedly reorient and refocus. So, for example, if you sit down to start recording your content and then you think, shit, yeah, I need to order some more of that builder gel. Then you go on to order the builder gel, but whilst you're on there, your client messages you. So you actually go on and answer her. And then whilst you're on Instagram, you think, oh shit, actually, I haven't posted a story today. Your brain's had to refocus 4 times, which is a massive drain of your energy. Now, I'm not saying we can fix that, but what I am saying is to be aware of that, because sometimes we really feel like we get to the end of the day, like, how have I not achieved more? Like, why am I so tired? And that is a massive reason for it. On that point, going forward, what I want you to do is to plan for your capacity. Put my teeth in capacity. So you'll see this isn't how I'm saying you plan it, but I just wanted to do a bit of a physical representation of how your energy pots will be depleted over the week. So it's no surprises here that I think we need to work on mindset. Mindset is always rooted in the base of everything we do. So I want you to approach planning with a different mindset. I want you to plan for your capacity, not for aesthetics. There's all these lovely little planners that look really cool, but if they don't match what you are actually using on a day-to-day basis, it doesn't matter. We need to stop trying to design a perfect week and plan around a functional week. So, for example, for me, my Monday and my Wednesday are completely different days. I have small daily routines that I will fit either side, but the bulk of my day is completely different. For example, on a Monday, I have half day admin, half a day in mom mode. And on a Wednesday, I'm in the salon all day from 8 till usually 6:30, 7. So the time and the energy used in between there is completely different. And this is where we pull in those energy pots. So for a Monday, I will likely be using a lot more cognitive energy because I actually have headspace to do the admin. But on a Wednesday, I'm with clients all day. So I'm using quite a lot of physical, emotional, and creative energy. So it's unlikely when I get home from work, I'm going to have any of that energy left to work on those projects in the evening. And in reality, that's probably going to affect my Thursday as well. So when I look at planning my week ahead, I will take into consideration how those pots will be feeling on any given day. And obviously, that is quite a bird's eye view. So when you want to do your planning, you want to look at across the month, what are those days looking like? Do you have a day, for example, where you've got all your family coming around, you have like a stand-in visit and they all come around on a Sunday? In reality, your emotional capacity is probably going to be quite reduced after that because you're having all these conversations, you're spending all the time with these people. So if you've got that on the Sunday, the next Monday, you're probably not going to be up for big emotional chats because your energy pot will be depleted. Hopefully that makes sense. But mainly what I want you to do is get into the headspace of remembering these energy pots. And if it helps to physically draw them out at the end of the day, do that. If it helps to have a little bar chart like what's on the screen up on your wall or in Excel, whatever sort of way you learn and manage yourself, I just want you to keep in the back of your mind these little pots of energy. Right, I've said energy pots way too much, so let's move on. Next, I want to talk about energy vibe mapping. Now, this might sound a bit hippy dippy, but I promise this has changed my life. And when it gets down to it, it's quite a basic thing to do. A process that I like to use when I'm planning my workload is vibe mapping, and that is where I allocate tasks with an energy load score. So at the start of my day, week, or month, whatever I'm working on in terms of planning, I will list all the items I want to work with and I will allocate them to either amped, steady, or soft. So, an amped task would be a high energy task, something like filming content, problem solving, prepping for a launch of an offer, training, things that really make your brain buzz and require a lot of focus and idea generation or physical effort. Steady would be medium energy tasks, and these are things that is likely to be the bulk of your work, to be honest. So things like replying to messages, planning content, prepping products, prepping sets, things that don't need like superhero level of focus, but you compare them with like a cuppa and a podcast and crack on nicely. But you do need a fair bit of energy. And then soft being low energy tasks. Things like filing your receipts, tidying your stations, building your Pinterest boards, things that are quite light on your brain. They don't need much focus and they can be done sort of semi autopilot. And that will be a small majority given how busy we are. But what I will do usually at the start of the week is write down my tasks and I go through with a highlighter and highlight amped in orange, steady in yellow, and soft in blue. And then I'll just highlight as I go and I will spread the workload across my week depending on those energy pots and depending on what sort of energy I'm likely to have. So again, on a Tuesday and Wednesday, I've got full client days. So I know come Thursday, when I've got my little boy with me, I'm probably not going to have much time generally, but I'm not going to have much energy to do a massive project launch. So maybe I'll just do some little bits while he's having his nap. I'll do some soft tasks. And that helps you to plan all those things you need to do across the day and the week and the month based on how you're likely to be feeling. Now, obviously, the whole thing with energy is that you might wake up feeling completely different to how you expected. So I'm not saying when you're doing your planning like this, you need to stick so rigidly to it. You change it around depending on how you're feeling and how that energy level is. Something that is helpful for ensuring you can move your business forward, because it's really easy to look at this and think, well, I'm just going to probably not have any energy any day, so I probably won't do anything. I'm not saying do that. I'm not giving you permission not to do what you need to do. It's more about managing your time in a way that works for your mind and body. But something called weekly anchors are a great way of making sure, regardless of what energy you have, you get the most important things done. So next, I would suggest picking 2 to 3 weekly anchors that, regardless of that energy load, we must get done. And these need to be things that move your business forward, either forward or maintain. So I'm not saying allocate a specific time or day, but what I am saying is every single week you will get these 2 to 3 things done. By picking these 2 to 3 things, you reduce your decision fatigue. So you don't get stuck in that loop of, I've got all this to do, I need to do the most important things. What are the most important things? Once you've picked them, they're set. And you know, each week, as long as you've got those done, everything else can slot around it if you've got the energy. So, for example, one of my weekly anchors is to schedule my content, which, to be honest, most of the time I do on a Sunday morning, but it's not rigid. If I have plans on Sunday, I'll do it on a Monday or a Saturday evening, but it will get done because I know that is something that is really important to grow in my business. It helps me to be organized in terms of, when it comes to my free time, if I know I've got a really busy week and I know I'm out on Sunday, I'll prioritize using my admin time to get some of that content done because I know it is really important. And it really helps when I'm having a rough week, looking at you period, that I know I only have to get 3 certain things done that week. It prevents me from getting in that big, horrible all or nothing spiral where you can't bring yourself to do anything because there's just too much to do. Now, on the topic of bad week, I also have a bad week plan. So this is something that I'm not saying prep this in advance, but particularly for me, it's usually very cycle linked, and my cycle does hit me like a bitch. So I have a bad week plan when I know it's coming. So usually the week before, I'll be like, right, next week I'm going to be bitch. I'm going to feel really low energy. I'm not going to want to do anything. I'm going to have absolutely no motivation and have absolutely no creativity. Most of my pots are going to be empty. So I will ask myself these 3 questions. What still needs to happen? Usually it's just my 2 to 3 anchors, but if there's something big coming up, for example, helpfully, when I relaunched and reopened the society, it was slap bang when I was due on. So I knew that week my focus had to be the launch on top of my free anchors. So I worked through what needs to happen for that launch to go ahead. And then, just to say on that as well, if it is only your anchors you can get done, that's fine. You don't have to be superwoman here. The whole point of a bad week plan is to stop you from spiraling. So if the idea of doing your 2 to 3 anchors and then something else spirals you, the something else gets left, or you swap out your anchor. The other thing I ask myself is what gets paused. So be really intentional with pausing things. Like, don't do it from a guilt. Don't be like, oh God, I've got to not do that. Own the fact that you're prioritizing your workload and you're understanding your mind and body. Be like, yeah, I'm just going to pause that because right now that's not important to my business. A point on that, you're going to sometimes feel like everything's important to your business, so how can I pause it? But you need to remember, you are literally the core of your business. So if you are feeling low and you push yourself and make yourself ill, you're going to go backwards. Do you know what I mean? Your business isn't going to move forwards even if you do push through and do those 5,000 things, because you're going to be too ill to get anything done. You're going to be too ill to see clients. So own the fact that you understand you need to pause certain things. And then the other question I ask is, what will protect my income this week? So I'll review the tasks that need to be done to protect the incoming profit to be honest, most of the time that is just making sure I see my clients. But if there's like a gap that I need to fill, and I know I've got people on my wait list, I will prioritize contacting them because I know I can get the income in from them. But if all you can do for that week is see your clients, cool, because you're protecting your income, which is ultimately the whole reason we're doing this. Now, I mentioned previously cycle syncing and how your cycle will affect you. Now, there is so much research coming out on this, and I am trying to stay up to date with it because I've personally found it really does impact me. But the whole point of cycle syncing is building your business around your menstrual cycle and utilizing the high points and accepting the low points and putting the right business tasks in those weeks. Now, the explanation you can see is based on a 28-day cycle. You do have to really learn your own cycle and your own symptoms, I guess. Mine are slightly out from this, so I know how to base mine around, but this is just a good sort of starting point. So, your menstrual week, which is day 1 to 7, when you come on, you want to really protect your energy in this week. You don't want to get calls or meetings in. You need to be sleeping, napping, resting, chilling. If you think you need a certain amount of rest, you need more than that. And we are really bad at just letting ourselves rest as women and as business owners. This is a week to be really introspective and intuitive and to look at what is and isn't working. Make sure you're journaling. Make sure you're working through how your brain feels because you'll be feeling all of the feels. And this is absolutely the week to say no to things if you don't want to do them. Do not push yourself into something that you don't feel comfortable with in this week because it will have an impact for the whole rest of the month. Your follicular stage, which I've had to learn how to say, is usually day 8 to 11. This is a really good week in terms of hormones. It is a very driven week. This is your week to do all your planning, to get your goals down, your intention setting. This is the week you want to be scheduling your meetings. You want to be trying new things, looking at ways of experimenting, planting seeds for collaborations, all those sort of high energy planning sort of tasks. Now, day 12 to 18 is your ovulation, and this is a good week to get lots of really big ticket things ticked off. So things like your content creation, going live, maximizing those meetings that you will have set up in the last stage, networking and connecting with people, sharing ideas. This is the week to say yes to things if you're feeling ready to take some risks. There's a lot of energy in this week and a lot of drive. So make sure you plan those big social things really in this week. And then your luteal phase, now this is the one that absolutely kicks my ass, is days 19 to 28-ish. And this is the week that you A, want to be kind to yourself, and B, start to like organize and declutter, very detail oriented tasks. This is the week to get shit done and wrap things up. Release your emotions, do the deep work, and really focus. This isn't the week to be starting new activities. This is an idea generation week. This is get stuff done, do the quiet work, do the detailed work, ready to reset for day 1 again. Now, this will seem really hippy dippy to some, and it will feel like this is just an overview because it is. I want to do a full training on this, but I just want to get a bit more research in first. And as it's still being researched, I don't want to give you full training or full information just yet. But this is just how I have started to manage my business. So, how that looks like in real life, that first week, you'll notice there's very few calls in the society. I really do try to do a lot of I can never say the word, introspective work and look at what I want for my business, really connecting with my why, because that's the week where I tend to be like, am I doing the wrong thing? Should I be doing this? It's a good week where it's a week where I will look at the past months and think what has worked, what hasn't worked, what do I want to take forward. And then for the follicular phase, that is where I'm planning my launches, and it's where I'm starting to get people's touch-ins booked in. It's where I'm wanting to try new things, try new ways of training, really experiment with different deliveries. And you'll notice you may notice that's a week where I start to put new ideas in the the society chat. The ovulation stage is where I really crack on. It's where I'm getting all the videos recorded. That's what's happening right now. If I do go live, it will be in that week as soon as I get access to do that. If I am taking risks, things like new trainings or putting myself in new spaces, reaching out to people, this is a week where I'm contacting guest features to see if they're interested. I make sure to save that for this week because it's when I'm feeling really social and way less socially anxious. And then the luteal phase is where I go quite quiet. I do try to stay active, but I'm very conscious that I am getting my ass kicked by this phase. So I will just crack on with all the things that I've planned. Any trainings that I've planned that I need to make presentations for, that's the week I do it. Any workbooks, any planning for like our event, that will be done in that phase. I am still new to doing this, so I do cock it up sometimes, but I've definitely found by trying to be conscious of which stage I'm in and trying to save different tasks for different stages, it's helped me to not completely fall behind when I am reaching those bits of my period that I struggle with. Now, if you're watching this back and you don't deal with any of this, brilliant, ignore it, skip past. Definitely should have said that at the start. But if you do really struggle with this and you want to work one-on-one with me, just drop me a message and we can work through it together. Definitely recommend starting to note down when you're hitting different phases, how you're feeling in each phase, and then you can start to build a really solid business plan around it. On the note of rest, because I mentioned it a few times there, I want to remind you that rest is 100% strategic. I really need you to take this in. Rest isn't laziness. It's not you avoiding responsibilities. It helps you to prevent a massive shutdown later on. Burnout is not just a buzzword that's going around at the moment. It's actually recognised by the World Health Organization as a syndrome, and it causes persistent fatigue, insomnia, headaches, wider reaching physical consequences. Basically, this shit is real. And by taking rest seriously, you're protecting your business and growing it sustainably, not intensively. This hustle culture bullshit might have you thinking that you're not allowed to take a rest, but it just doesn't work. It's not how you build a sustainable business. Yes, you'll see people on podcasts like, I wake up at 5 a.m. and I don't stop until 4 a.m. the next day. Cool. That's not going to work forever. You're going to burn out soon, lad. So please make sure that you're taking time to rest regardless of how you plan. So what next? Because I know this has been a bit of a different training. You'll find underneath this video and in the Habits and Systems Vault a weekly planning template that you can print off as many copies as you want, and a full energy planning workbook that takes you through the steps I just went through. I will link them, as I say, under the video, and as the training around cycle syncing develops, there will be a further document to help you with that. But if you need any additional resources, make sure to reach out. If you do put this into practice, please let me know. And if you've watched this training and found it useful, I'd love to know, because I know this is slightly different to what we've done before. But yeah, and if you're struggling with anything generally, struggling with planning, please make sure to utilise the community chats and the one-to-one chats, which I know you will. And thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.